for our agenda today, I'm going to just highlight some of the key aspects of the MBAN program that I believe are of your interest, and recall some of the ways that the MBAN program can really help you take the next step in your career, either here in Canada or internationally post-program. And then I'm going to hand it over to my dear colleague, Laine, who's sitting here on somewhere else in the building. And Laine, thanks, Laine. Laine is going to take us through some interesting stats about how MBAN and employment and internships outcomes have materialized over the last year for the cohorts that have graduated. But he's also going to share a little bit more about the great Business Career Center team that is here to equip you and make sure that you're empowered to get to your career goals. The MBAN program, the Masters of Business Analytics, which we always refer to as MBAN. So the MBAN program, it's that 12-month accelerated journey that starts every August. It's usually the first Monday in August with what we call opening week. So what the MBAN program is going to open up for our folks that eventually join the school, you're going to have that opportunity to really deep dive into advanced analytics, but also understand more about machine learning, data management, descriptive, prescriptive analytics with business lens. So through a number of experiential opportunities, including hackathon that we are highlighting here, you're going to get that opportunity to put in practice the skills that you're learning from your full-time studies during the week with weekend events, evening events, and really taking that opportunity to have materialize and enhance your skills from the MBAN program and the mathematical ability that many of you bring forward to the program as well. Next is Laine. So I'm really excited to have Laine with us today. Laine is the Director of Student Personal and Professional Development at the Harry B. Varshney Business Career Centre. We were colleagues in the same team many years ago when I moved to the graduate side of the house. And Laine has a wealth of knowledge and a passion for student empowerment. So Laine, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rodrigo. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your days to join us today. As Rodrigo said, yes, I'm in the Business Career Center. As Student Personal and Professional Development Director, I oversee both of our undergraduate and graduate career teams. So I'm excited to spend a little bit of time with you today as you consider or work through your applications for the MBAN program. My objective today, as Rodrigo mentioned on the agenda, is just to share a little bit about the Business Career Center, or what I may refer to throughout the presentation as the BCC, as well as some employment outcomes of previous MBAN cohorts. So I also just want to give a shout out. I have a colleague, Carly Boucher, on the call today. Carly is one of our graduate career strategists, and she'll be here at the end if we do have questions from anyone around sort of career support for the MBAN students. So thanks for joining us, Carly. All right, so let's launch into it here. So just was starting off a little bit about the BCC. So the Business Career Center is really that home for career services at UBC Sauder. So we're lucky enough at UBC Sauder and the business faculty here at UBC. Only a few faculties have a dedicated career center, and Sauder is one of them. We service, as I mentioned, both undergraduate and graduate students, and we're really here to support you with your unique career goals, to help gain that momentum and understand what career is going to be, or what career path is going to be a good fit for you. In terms of how we actually support students, so what type of services and resources we have, I want to just highlight sort of 5 themes. The first that I wanted to dive into is our one-on-one career coaching and advising. So this is probably one of our most engaged resources that we provide. We have a team of dedicated career strategists who support students with everything on the continuum from understanding what they want to do in their careers to job prep, interview prep, job search prep, and a whole variety of things that students are looking for support for. The second thing I want to highlight is we have a wide suite of resources that students can tap into. These include things like toolkits, working in industry guides, different types of assessments, whether it's strengths or emotional intelligence to support you in working with teams or understanding sort of your own personal leadership. The third area is really about sort of that industry connection with jobs and experiential learning. So the Business Career Centre actually has a dedicated jobs board specific to UBC Sauder students where industry and employers can post opportunities, whether they're searching for internships or new grad hires. So it's an amazing resources that students have access to as being a part of the UBC Sauder community. On top of that, we also have experiential learning opportunities that we're bringing to students through whether it be internships or things like case competitions and hackathons, which is more specific to the MBAN program. The fourth area is we have many events happening on campus. Employer events. Each year we've got company recruitment sessions happening on campus, company information sessions. We also have dedicated employer recruitment events for the MBAN program to help support them get those internship placements during that experiential learning period of the MBAN program. And then we also have dedicated sort of access to alumni, whether that is alumni coming in for panel events or having a dedicated alumni networking event. And the last but not least that I want to highlight is our skill development workshops. So as a part of the MBAN program, you actually have access to a dedicated career development course. It's a 1.5 credit course that's a part of your academics. And we go through everything from industry knowledge to networking, storytelling, interview prep, everything to get you ready for both your internship and your full-time job search career journey. And then we also have a course which we call 509, but it is the experiential learning course. And this is really focused on that experiential learning, that internship experience, where we help support you through technical interview prep and connecting with alumni. So those are just a few highlights. We've got many resources under each of those themes. So I encourage you to check out the website to learn more. In terms of who is supporting you, this is a quick glance at our graduate careers teams who are directly supporting the MBAN students. The Business Career Centre is led by Martina Balkovichova. She's the Assistant Dean of the BCC. And then in combination with myself and Mary, we're leading the graduate careers team. On the bottom row, you'll see our dedicated graduate career strategist, specifically working with our MBAN population. They're that frontline team who are working with students from one-on-one coaching, classroom instruction, coordination of events and programming throughout the year. So they'll be working directly with you if you do join us in September, or August, I should say. The other team I want to also highlight is we have a dedicated business development team in the Business Career Centre. So I also like to refer to this team as the employer relations team. They're the folks in the BCC who are externally facing, connecting with industry partners, whether it's here in BC, here in Vancouver, or across Canada, to get them to bring in those job postings, those attending events and recruitment sessions each year. So we've got a dedicated team just for that sort of external facing stakeholder relationship management. Now, in terms of your careers, on the screen here, you'll see our career development framework that we use. This model is built to help guide students, but also helps guide the work of the Business Career Centre in terms of what services and supports we provide. You'll often see, and in the title there, us refer to this as your unique career journey. And it's titled that because students really join us at different stages or starting points or levels of clarity of what they want to do with their careers. The model's designed that students can move between the pillars to really take a sort of customized individualistic approach to their career development. And there's no specific order. I mean, personally, I think starting in the middle with that know yourself pillar is key to the rest of the different pillars within the career development model. But I'll just walk you through them briefly to give you an understanding of sort of why we focus on these four key pillars. So the know yourself pillar, that's really about understanding who you are, what matters to you, to help build that confidence in your decision-making as you navigate your career. As you move to the top green there, looking at telling your story, this is more and more important every year as employers are looking for students who can articulate and story tell. But this is all about learning how to communicate who you are, what your interests are, helping to build that confidence and make meaningful conversations with whether it's you're at a networking event or you're in a job interview situation. We really want students to be able to showcase how they can tell their story. Exploring career opportunities. As you're coming to a graduate program, you're going to do a lot of exploration. You're going to learn new things. So we really want you to lean into this exploration, have better clarity of your career path. That could be just understanding a new specific industry or market. It could be building new relationships, skills or experience to help you with that future sort of profession or career path that you want to take. And then finally, learn through experience. Everything we do here is we look to have it as applied experience. You're going to have a lot of growth and evolution during your MBAN degree, and your time at Sauder is the chance to learn what you love, maybe what you don't love as much. Learning these important things will only help enhance your career journey moving forward. So the other part of the sort of owning your unique career journey is our expectations of students. So I did just want to highlight a few things. The Business Career Centre is here to support you, but we also want you to take some ownership in your journey. And so we have some expectations that UBC Sauder students are committed. This is your career journey. So we're here to help you, but you're really going to be driving that effort, and it needs to come from your own place of energy. The second thing is we want you to be proactive. There are so many different opportunities for you to engage with, and we help you to learn, grow, and connect in all these types of career-enhancing experiences, but it's really up for you to capitalize them and make them work for your unique journey. And the last thing is resilience. So many times we see students join us with a specific idea of what they want to do or where they want to go, and that can change. And that's completely okay. Career paths and plans often evolve. So we want you to really take and embrace that with confidence, knowing that we're here to support you and help you navigate these transitions. There's bound to be challenges as you enter sort of a whole new market, or you want to maybe pivot your career. And so we just have you take that sort of resilient growth mindset as you approach your career development. Okay. Now, I'm sure that the data that everyone's sort of signed up for this webinar for is understanding sort of where our MBANs have gone in the past. So I want to share with you some career outcomes and employment data from the last couple of years, or for the last year rather. But before I do, I also just want to showcase that there are a variety of ways that MBAN students can achieve that experiential learning component. So I just want to highlight that there's multiple pathways for this experiential learning during the May to August timeframe. I'm going to focus today on the internship because that is where we have the employment outcome data. But these are the short-term paid work experiences within a company in an analytics role. But just know there's also options for personal research projects, group industry projects as an experiential learning pathway. But we'll shift into the outcomes. So from an internship perspective, just in terms of understanding who was looking for work at this past May through August period, we had a class size of 84 students. The average size of the average age of the MBAN student was about 26, with just over 3 years work experience. When we look at how many students did internships, we had 65 students do internships this past summer between May and August. That's actually 77% of the class. And you'll see on the screen here, we've got average salary and salary range. For that average salary, a healthy 4,500, that's common year over year, around that range. But within the salary range, I also just wanted to give a little insight in terms of sort of those top earning industries include healthcare, consulting, and government. The other piece I wanted to highlight is the way students actually secure their internships. So you'll see a heavy proportion of the students securing internships, whether what we're calling through school facilitated. These are things like where we brought in job opportunities, we've had events, or different connection opportunities for students to meet with employers. So we've got 74% of our internships were facilitated through some sort of school connection. whereas we had 26% of students who actually facilitated their own, which is amazing. We often encourage students to activate early, to get to know the market, to make connections with whether it's employers or alumni. And these students were successful in landing their internship in their own means. I did just want to provide a snapshot of internships by industry. So you'll see here that the top industries are healthcare, government, consumer products. The other one, sorry, I know it's a little frustrating, but I do have some insights. It actually is made up, and it's only because it's a bunch of ones, but we had some people land in telecommunications, transportation, advertising, real estate, and nonprofit. So that's what that makes up, that 15% other bucket. When we look at internships by job title, just wanted to give you a snapshot. Obviously, data analysts, business analysts are going to be the top, and they continue to be year over year, but also just look through the chart here to understand what other types of analyst type roles would be relevant to MBAN students for internship placements or landings. Now, from a geographic perspective, so we do have students, and the majority of students typically do their internships in BC and the greater Vancouver area. But I also just wanted to highlight that we also had students do their internships across Canada as well as internationally. I think last year's data was we had students in Toronto, Montreal, as well as the US and China outside of BC. The other thing I did just want to highlight, this is actually a slide that I mentioned our business development team, who brings in a lot of opportunities and job postings. So this is related to some of the work they do. Last year, we had over 500 internship job postings, which is amazing. But I wanted to also share the graph here on the right. And the graph is really to depict the seasonality of job postings. So you'll see a consistent sort of activity through the September, October, November, December timeframe with a spike in September. And this is really due to sort of that national and large employer campus recruit. Most companies that post before sort of the February timeframe are some of those global companies who have the campus recruitment teams, who have the large sort of hiring teams. This is commonly found in sort of finance, consulting, or even CPG companies. So the key to this is just to understand the seasonality of job postings. And if you are looking for, say, work in consulting, finance, or CPG, you may want to have in mind to activate a bit early. Those postings typically come in that fall term. Don't worry, though, if those aren't of industries of interest, we have job postings throughout the year, and you'll see there's quite a few jobs that happen between the January and May time frame as well. All right, so from a full-time employment perspective, quick snapshot of the class, very similar sort of age range and years experience, but I also thought I would include, we've got 78 students who graduated the class of 2023. And I also thought I would include, just out of curiosity, sort of the average GMAT and GRE score of this class. Now, I will say I'm using the MBAN class of 2023 data because our class of 2024 is not complete yet. They just finished their internships, actually, I would say, just about 3 weeks ago. So we're still collecting the full-time employment outcome data from this class. So, but I wanted to give you sort of full academic or sort of full class outlook of what full-time employment outcomes can look like. So we'll dive into the class of 2023 here. So we had 87% of our students, which is great, looking for work hired within that 3-month period after graduation. The class size was 78, just a reminder. And the average salary was just over $80,000. Within that salary range here, the top earning industries, just if you're curious, were around CPG, technology, and financial services. And if we look at the same chart in terms of facilitated employment, you'll see here in comparison to the internships, more students are actually facilitating their own landings, which is great news, which means our programming, our career services are really having an impact. We have a strong focus on teaching students the skills in advance of the internship, but definitely in advance of the full-time work, so that they can apply these skills and these tools that they've learned to help increase that how many graduate facilitated opportunities are. Another contributing factor to this as well is that a lot of students who are working in the internships actually are able to convert those internships into full-time work opportunities. So last year we had 51% who were hired in an internship actually convert that into a full-time opportunity, which is great news and something we love to see. It's a great opportunity for students to test out a company and then join full-time because they love it. Just a a snapshot of this year. It's only been 3 weeks, but we already have 17 students who've already converted their internship to full-time this year. So we'll continue to collect that data and publish it when the timeline is appropriate. Just showcasing the industry outlook for these landings. Again, top continues to be healthcare, government, financial services, and consulting. When we look at job titles, just another snapshot, very similar to the internships, but gives you a more robust look around how many students are going into different types of job titles. And then the interesting thing with the geographic employment location is all of our students actually stayed in BC or in Canada this year. So we have the majority, which is quite common, almost 80% stay in BC. But we also had students going out, or graduates, I should call them, going out to Ontario and Alberta. And this slide is just sort of a visual brand representation of the types of employers you can expect. These are employers that actively hired from this 2023 cohort, but they're also employers who commonly engage on campus, and students have the opportunity to meet through events and activities. As you may have noticed in some of the class profiles, many of our students are international students. So I want to always include some labor market highlights as a part of this presentation to really give you a sense of the hiring landscape in Canada. So this data is actually from our last national census. And I apologize, it looks outdated, but it actually is still quite relevant in terms of highlighting some key locations across Canada to consider for employment opportunities. The next census is happening, I believe it's next year, so we'll have some updated data. But overall in this graph, you'll see that Canada's population growth has really continued to grow over the past 5 years leading up to the 2021 period. You'll notice, and what I want you to pay attention to at the bottom of the map here, on the left, we've got BC, and on the right, we've got Ontario. These are two provinces highlighted in dark green that really show that high population growth. And as you can probably assume, these are two geographic locations that new immigrants tend to settle in Canada. And in our experience within BC and Ontario, this is also where the epicenters are for where our students tend to land careers. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of sort of opportunities BC as well as Ontario. I do also want to give a shout out to Alberta. We've seen more and more students go out to Alberta for different types of industries. Now, this is just some overall numbers. These are slightly up from last year in terms of the employment rate. But if we zoom into the two key markets where students typically land, it's good to note that BC is below the national unemployment rate. And hopefully with interest rates slowing and decreasing, we'll continue to see this unemployment rates decrease also. But I also want to include Ontario in here because it is still a key market for our students, especially when they're considering different industries that maybe aren't as represented in BC, like manufacturing or CPG, pharmacy. They have a strong presence there. So that's why we see students go out there year over year. And in the next few slides, I'll dive into BC a little bit and give some industry information as well. But this is just a high-level snapshot of the labor across Canada. Given that 80% of our students, I'll spend a little bit more time on BC, 80% of our students stay here. So over the next decade, it's projected that there will be just under 1 million jobs, new job openings in British Columbia. The majority of these roles are actually focused in the Greater Vancouver area as well, if you are looking to stay in that region. And 80% of these roles are expected to be filled by either young people starting work or new immigrants and newcomers to Canada. You'll see in the dark blue part of the graph, these are actually roles where people will need to be replaced. We do have an aging population in British Columbia, so we have a lot of people retiring, and that's going to create opportunities for graduates coming out of, say, the MBAN program or all programs to tap into these job opportunities. And in the light blue part of the graph, you'll see these are actually expansion or new roles being created in the economy for people to tap into as well. Where that lands from an industry outlook perspective, there's sort of key sectors that have been identified or forecasted, and those include healthcare, social assistance, professional, scientific and technical services, retail trade, construction, and educational services. These 5 actually will generate more than half of the jobs over the next 10 years. So just something for you to be aware of in terms of when you're looking at industries and potential employers for your future career paths. Now, the other piece of the economy, not only specific to BC, but across Canada, is just want to highlight sort of the prevalence and dominance of SMEs in Canada. So SMEs are what are referred to as small and medium-sized enterprises. And actually 98% of businesses across Canada are actually small businesses. How that's defined in Canada, I've laid out here in the definition. Small businesses are typically between 1 and 99 employees. Medium businesses are sort of that 100 to 499. And large businesses are over 500 employees. Now, when we think of that in context of the labor market, the private sector businesses employ over 12 million people in Canada. So you'll see here that actually small and medium-sized businesses are employing 60% of these people. So I point this out not only as an opportunity, but also for you to be aware of, because there's differences in the way small and medium-sized and large enterprises approach their recruitment cycles. So large businesses tend to have a longer outlook on hiring with year-over-year planning, those campus recruitment teams that I mentioned, where they have sort of headcounts in mind year over year. Whereas what we see with this 60% small and medium-sized businesses, their approach is what we refer to as just-in-time hiring. They're not as cyclical. They may have years where they hire more, years where they hire a little less. And so I just want you to be aware of sort of the differences in the hiring and the landscape that you're potentially entering with the MBAN program. The good thing is that we're going to be supporting you through this career journey and navigating the industry and employment landscape, but just something to be aware of. Thank you for listening. Rodrigo, I will close my part here. I'll pass it back to you to share a few more slides, and then we'll open up for Q&A, and Carly and I are happy to answer any questions that you have.
Amazing. Thank you, Laine. Lots of good data. And I see that we are doing really well for time. We've had a few questions in the Q&A, more about admissions, which we have addressed. There's a question there about salary that we can go back to when we get to the Q&A portion. So I wanted to bring it back to admissions now and remind everyone of our upcoming deadlines. As you know, and as we communicate via our website, we do rolling admissions. So you don't have to wait for a deadline to submit your application. If you feel you have put together a strong application package, you have spent some time talking to your mentors, advisors, colleagues on reasons why you'd be interested in joining this cohort of talented MBAN students, submit your application before the deadline. What we always say here is before is better, because it gives you more chances to reflect, prepare, have your decisions early. And then if you're coming from other provinces or other parts of the world, it allows you a longer roadmap and runway to make sure that you can get everything ready and join us next August. But we do have deadlines, and I also recognize that we respond to deadlines. They help us stay focused and meet our targets. So the first deadline that is coming up very, very soon is the October 15 deadline. And then you're gonna, if you apply by then, we guarantee a decision by December 6th. If we receive your complete application with all supporting documents, we have our second round of application deadline. And I usually recommend this as the most important deadline if you're an applicant from overseas, given financing, getting your visa, and making sure that you're finding housing and getting ready to join us in August with a little bit of time before the program starts, so you can take advantage of the beautiful Vancouver summer weather. I recommend this one as the most important deadline for international students, January 10th, and it's also our early entrance scholarship deadline. And we have our third round of applications deadline coming up on March 11, for both domestic and international students. But I would really like to draw your attention for the first and second deadline as the most important deadlines. The MBAN has become quite a competitive entry program. So keeping those in mind and connecting with us and getting some of the insights from today's call, Laine, can also help you put forward a strong application. What do we have next? Because I see some questions about scholarships, and I think that's probably going to help address some of the questions that we see in the chat. Thank you for asking about scholarships. We have a robust scholarship offering for the MBAN applicants. So you see some of our scholarships listed here, their eligibility and deadline. And we make it very simple. You don't need to submit a special application or documents for your scholarship consideration. Every applicant with a complete application, once they make, and when they make to the admissions committee, which is the final stage of the application review process, they're going to be assessed by the committee for scholarships automatically. So my recommendation always is do the best with your application, spend some time thinking about your why, connect with us, some of our MBAN ambassador students, and the alumni as well. Attend our sessions to really give some thought to what are you bringing to the cohort, why this is the right program for you, and how do you plan to elevate the cohort as well, because you're going to become a part of this community. And a little tip that I would say, if you can, don't submit only 2 references. You are allowed to submit up to 3 references, and the more the merrier, because it then allows us to really get an inside eye into how others have assessed your contributions, your work ethic, your talent and potential. And for graduate programs, most importantly and strongly encouraged, we want to see at least 1 supervisor reference. So, and sometimes it's delicate. You don't want to have your current supervisor as your referee, and we understand that. But it would be ideal that we get as many supervisors as you can in the span of 1 to 5 years max. If you have other questions, you can reach out to us. But these are some of the ways that you can make your application stronger. And no, you don't need to submit anything else for scholarship consideration. Yes, so that's ways that you can connect with us. So if you scan any of those, you can book a meeting and then join some of our other upcoming events for the MBAN program. I do recognize that at this time we are fully booked on the MBAN. So you may try to book a meeting right now and you may see that there's no availability. We are going to be opening up our slots starting up on Monday. So stay tuned and thank you for your patience. And I think now we can maybe go back to questions because I see they are coming up. I'll start us off, Laine, with a question about the salary figures that you share with us.
Sure.
I don't want to make any assumptions here, but I'll defer to you. The question was about the salary figures, and is it net salary or gross salary that we are reporting on?
Gross. Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's a great question here as well from Armin. As someone who eventually wants to start something of her own and wants to utilize the program to learn some advanced analytical skills, how would they fit in the class program and opportunities available with students who want to pursue an entrepreneurial path, explore their own ideas?
Yeah, apologies, Ramin. I focused on the employment outcomes today, but we have many students that are taking that entrepreneurial path, whether it's in the MBAN program, the MBA program, and undergraduate program. So there's a huge entrepreneurial network here at UBC Sauder. So there's lots of resources to tap into. We still find, though, a lot of the sort of career development path programming that we provide is still valuable for anyone who's wanting to start their own business. You're still out there networking, you're still out there telling your story and exploring sort of where you want to take your business. So I think that would all definitely apply to you. We also have E at UBC, which is a resource that all UBC can tap into. It's an entrepreneurship at UBC hub. Carly, anything else you would add into that one?
Thanks, Laine. Yes, and thanks for the question. The other opportunity also is that personal project route when we get to the experiential learning part of the program, where you can actually really dive into an area of analytics or business, work really closely with an assigned faculty supervisor. And if it makes sense to chart the path or chart that project to your entrepreneurial vision or venture to get started also, that could be a great opportunity as well. But I'll echo what Laine said, the E at UBC is huge. We've seen interns actually get hired there from MBAN, MBA, all the way through other programs as well. So that would be a great resource on campus.
Yeah. Thanks, Carly.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Laine. There's a question here about the individuals that did not either report or we have employment data from them within 3 months of graduation. And I'm glad to see that people are paying attention because they are listing the percentage, so 13%. Laine, Carly, any insights about the journey of those? And yeah.
So the 13% who didn't say find it within the 3 month, is that? Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned in sort of that career development side, everyone has their unique journey. So some students actually delay looking for work, and they might have just started looking for work towards the end of that 3-month period. But we're dedicated to supporting students throughout their career development beyond graduation as well. So the graduate careers team supports students not only during the program, but up into that period where they're looking, say, because you finish the internship in the end of August and they're looking, say, for work between September and December or even beyond. So we're still here to support you in that career navigation.
Thank you. I have a question. Laine, Carly, we know how intense the MBAN program is, and we know that once opening week starts, all of a sudden, because I see the students in the hallways, and then we meet them at their gala towards the end of the degree, and they say, I can't believe it's done, right? So do you have any tips and tricks on how to maximize the journey in terms of engaging early? What are some of the key events that they should be paying attention to, and how to build that connection and support when connecting with the career strategists and whatnot in the first couple of months of the degree?
Yeah, I mean, typically and Carly, I'll let you build on what I'm sharing. Typically, we find starting your graduate program is intense in, say, the first couple of months. So depending on what your career goals are, you may want to activate early. Say, as I mentioned, you want to get into consulting or finance or CPG. Those are areas of the employment landscape that you do need to activate early. So you need to be aware of that. So we do a lot of prep programming leading up to the fall term. If you are accepted into the program, you have access to, and you can take those throughout the summer and start to prepare. You can also take your own initiative and reaching out to alumni, to connecting with different sort of UBC Sauder community members. That being said, as you're in the program, there's also a lot of ways to build that connection, as Rodrigo mentioned, with the careers team. So we have, typically we'll see all of our graduate students in a dedicated career course every, I would say, at least once or twice a month. So we're building that connection through the career course. You have access to career coaching. So I would just say not everyone takes advantage of it, but I encourage everyone to take advantage of it. It's something that is available here for you. So please, yes, reach out to Carly, Rachel, Logan, all of the graduate careers teams well in advance of waiting for, say, the March anxiety of landing that internship. Activate nice and early towards the end of the fall term. Anything to build on that, Carly, or advice you've seen that would be helpful?
Yeah, if you've hit everything pretty much what I would say. The other caveat, if this is new, if this is a new space, a new world to you, is to take the P1 and P2, which is September to December. It's again going to be very busy, very quick, and very exciting at the same time, is to explore. So take that time again to attend company events, do some research, reach out to alumni, and just tap into some industries maybe that you're not familiar with. Laine highlighted the local market. So if your goal is to potentially stay here, okay, what does that look like for you? What does that look like for your potential career industry of choice? And again, that's where myself and the team come in handy. We're doing intakes with MBAN students that have just arrived. And so our whole goal is to really get to know you and support you behind the scenes, and also help strategize as well as you go through the program. So yeah, just even take P1, P2 just to settle in and then even start that exploration. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, Carly touched on something that I think is important as well. Your career development isn't necessarily only dependent on the career center. We're a network at UBC Sauder. We're an ecosystem. I know many students who've had amazing relationships with faculty that help support their careers, with alumni, with students in different programs, whether in the MBA program or the Masters of Management program. So there is a whole community here to support you. But yes, don't worry, we'll come find you as well at the BCC.
Thank you, Laine. Thank you, Carly. One of the questions that we often get as well, and we recently had our experience graduate school day here on campus, and then we had some questions coming up in terms of how are you incorporating and seeing the role of Gen AI into career services or optimizing career search and all of that. And I know that the BCC, the Business Career Center folks, we have lots of acronym across the school: RHL, the Robert H. Lee Graduate School, the BCC, the Business Career Center, has incorporated some of those into their toolkits and empowering and equipping our students. Can you speak a bit about those as well, Laine?
Yeah, for sure. Our methodology or our philosophy is lean into it. Lean into it as a tool that supports you. Don't rely on it, though. It can't be the only thing you're working with. So we've seen it help ideate for students around sort of potential career paths or things to prepare for in an interview. So we're seeing a lot of value in leveraging AI in terms of career development and career preparation. But I will say that the more and more we talk to employers, they're catching on to AI if students are relying on it too heavily. They're seeing the same cover letters, the same resumes. It's looking like everything's being spit out of the same system if students are relying only on AI. So that's why we lean into it, but lean into it as a tool to support your development, not to guide your entire career path or the sort of stages within your career path.
Thank you, Laine. That's good. We've got a question here about the salary and ways to boost earning potential. So from the statistics, base salary of the students started around the 50K mark, the 51K mark. Yeah. So I think the question is around how can the students maximize their earnings from base salary to get to that place of average salary?
Yeah, I will also put in the caveat that the salary range is also inclusive of international sort of placements that then convert to Canadian dollars. So some of those, when you'll see salary stats on our website or you'll hear from other students, just keep that in mind. I believe with the 2023 cohort, though, all of them were in Canada. So some reasons that might be are depending on your background, whether it's your educational background or your work experience background. One of those students, it might have been their first entry into data analytics or business analytics. So that also has an impact on where you sit within the salary range. So I would say if you are joining us in the September, that's something you want to come to a career strategist or one of the career coaches at the BCC, have that conversation in terms of how early you can start to think about your story and set yourself up to position yourself in industry for if one of those core goals for you is achieving X salary. Everyone is unique, though. We have MBAN students who went to work for nonprofits, and that might just be due to their own sort of personal values and career goals. So I don't necessarily see a lower salary as negative. It all depends on the individual.
We got an easy question here. The next start date for next year's cohort. I'm not going to try to think about the calendar because I'm probably going to miss the day, but I know it's the last Monday of August. So the last Monday of August of 2025 is when the next cohort starts. This one, I think we can probably tag team, Laine, because I know you have some great insights and you connect with the students and prospect students as well. What would you say are maybe tips for someone who is submitting again? For whatever reason, they were not successful in their first application submit, and they are planning to resubmit. What tips would you have for them?
Yeah, for me, when we're reviewing potential candidates, I really would love to have students really reflect on where they want to go and how that MBAN is going to support them where they're going. So again, it's talking about being able to tell your story, right? It's like, I'm at a specific spot in my career. Maybe you did your undergraduate in a specific area, and being able to lay over the MBAN experience where's that going to take you? Having that self-awareness and the reflection, I think, is really powerful in a perspective or an application for the MBAN program.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. And if I may add to that, for
Please.
me, it's typically not spending too much time thinking about what we want to see, right?
Yeah.
It's truly go back to, okay, what are your core reasons why? And let your research and some of your thoughts from having discussed your application ideas or goals for the MBAN, talking with mentors, advisors, colleagues, really resonate. I think for us, it's more around, okay, what is that unique perspective that you're going to bringing to us? And even though we know that the journey outcomes are going to change and you're going to be going through a roller coaster of ideas and opportunities during your degree, we want to really understand, okay, what is driving you? What is motivating you, and what are some of the reasons why you want to do this? And it's unique for every individual, and that's what makes the MBAN cohort so interesting and exciting. It's a tapestry of so many different unique perspectives, work experience, entrepreneurial experiences, backgrounds, healthcare, tech, business. So really do a deep dive into, okay, why am I doing this? And sound it off with colleagues and mentors. I think that's probably the best way that we can assess if we are a good match. And we look forward to seeing your application.
Yeah, echoing off that, Rodrigo, I love to see when students have some area of passion too, whether it comes from volunteering or maybe they're involved in, say, the local community or in the LGBTQ network. Like, we want to see that authenticity in the applications. I think that just adds to the diversity of the cohort and the power of diversity within the MBAN global network, because we've got alumni from multiple years now.
So we are getting close to the top of the hour, and I appreciate everyone's time and many questions.